Sup fools, GokuGod here. So I've been playing the Overwatch beta for the past few days, and I thought I would share my impressions and give a bit of a preview for anyone who didn't get to play it. So for anyone who isn't familiar with the game, Overwatch is a multiplayer only first-person shooter, but it isn't just another Call of Duty or Halo clone, it's a team-focused, class-based shooter that's very objective-oriented. If you're familiar with games like Team Fortress 2, it shares a lot in common with them. It's not just a straight-up shooter either, as lots of characters don't use guns, and some don't even have a projectile weapon as their main weapon. This means that working as a team is usually your best method for winning matches, as balancing the different strengths and weaknesses of each character in your team is key. Now, being a fan of modern military shooters like Call of Duty and Battlefield, I wasn't sure that I was going to enjoy this as much as I did. It's very colourful and cartoony, and I wasn't initially a fan of the game's art style, as I usually prefer my shooters to be a bit more gritty and realistic. I still don't like every aspect of the design, but I do think that it works well with the overall theme, and I think that keeping things light-hearted for Overwatch is the right direction. So before playing the beta, I did watch a few matches on YouTube, and I must admit I really didn't understand what was going on. The game moves at such a breakneck pace, and there are so many different specials and other abilities going off at any one time that for anyone unfamiliar with how Overwatch is played, it can look very confusing. Hell, even when you do know what's going on, it can be confusing at times because of how chaotic it can be. It certainly does take a little getting used to if you've not played anything like it before, and while learning the basic movement and mechanics is easy, understanding what all the characters can do and figuring out which are the best strategies to win does take time. Matches on average last about 5 minutes, although when it's a one-sided affair it can be over in half of that. One thing that became obvious to me early on is that lone wolfing it is not the best way to go. As I mentioned before, it's a very team and objective focused game. Every time I was part of a well-organised team or played against one, the matches were over very, very quickly. I found that playing alone was often frustrating, particularly when no one else seemed to be playing the objective. And for this reason, I think it will be important to know a few friends to party up with in order to have a good time. What's interesting about the beta is what we got to play is actually the full game. This is unlike a lot of other betas where you only get to play a small portion. What this does mean is that with the exception of a competitive mode that will come later, there aren't any additional modes, maps or characters coming when the game launches. This also means that there isn't any kind of team deathmatch mode at this stage if that's something that you are hoping for. Now, because all of the matches have a clear objective, picking your hero character is really strategic, and having at least one of each class represented in your team is important. There are 21 characters to choose from across 4 different classes, which are Support, Assault, Escort, and Control. Each class has a distinct role and also require varying degrees of skill to be effective with. For example, I really like the Ninja. He's got some cool abilities like a parry, and his super ability lets him pull a sword out and deal some serious damage. The trade-off is he's pretty weak, and being effective with him means that you often have to risk taking damage to get in close. On the flip side of that, you have huge characters like Reinhardt, who is basically a giant knight with a hammer. He's really effective at holding down objectives and helping his team push forward. He has a ton of health and he can be really difficult to deal with when playing as one of the weaker characters. Now, to me it felt like all the characters have a similar base movement speed, but some characters do have a dash or a run ability. I really like how unique all the characters are. There's really something for everybody in terms of appearance and playstyle. Each character has a primary weapon, a couple of unique abilities, and a special attack, which is kind of like a kill streak, I guess, but you don't have to get a certain amount of kills in a row to earn it. It charges up based on score, and the time it takes to earn varies between characters, with some getting it much faster than others. In addition to the diverse character roster, all the characters have a bunch of different skins you can unlock. In some instances, they completely change what the character looks like, and I like how creative they are as well. I can see a lot of potential for paid DLC content here, but even with the base level of items, there's still a lot on offer. Skins and other items like emotes can be earned through credits and loot boxes. Loot boxes contain 4 random items with things like skins, emotes, sprays, which for the life of me I couldn't figure out, and even sometimes credits. I'm guessing you can use real world money to buy all this stuff too, but I seem to get loot boxes pretty frequently, so I think if you play a lot there's probably no reason to spend real money. Now, as much as I enjoyed the game, there were a few things that I didn't like. Firstly, in some of the game modes it can take a while to get back into the action after you die. I found that early on this was really frustrating as I kept getting lost on my way back due to the labyrinth-like level design. There are teleports though, and I'm figuring with enough experience and map knowledge this probably won't be an issue long term. The other thing I'm concerned about is how well this game will play long term. There's no weapon unlocks or things like attachments to grind for. Sure, there's heaps of cosmetic items, but nothing that changes the gameplay itself. There are 21 characters to learn, which I'm guessing will take a decent amount of time to master, but once you've tried all the characters, there's probably only a handful that you're going to stick to, and after that I think things could become repetitive quite quickly. My final concern is that there's only 12 maps and 4 modes, so unless the plan is to add content for free on a regular basis, a la GTA 5 or Battlefront, there's not a lot of content here and I can see people losing interest before long. Overall though, I was really impressed with this beta. It felt really polished. Performance was rock solid, it runs silky smooth even when things get chaotic, which is pretty much all the time. It was easy finding games and there's lots of nice little features that are an obvious indication that Blizzard know what they're doing. One example of this is that you can browse any of the menu options while searching for a game. You don't have to just sit in a lobby. This seems simple enough, but pretty much every other online game limits what you can do while waiting in the lobby. Another example is how at the end of the match there's a replay of the best moment. It's a bit like a final kill cam, but it can come from any part of the match, and it doesn't necessarily have to come from the top player as well. But despite how much I enjoyed it, I'm still not sure I'm going to pick it up. The friends that I played with were split in opinion, with some loving it and others not being so sure. I think ultimately having a group of people to play it with will be a fundamental component for enjoying the game. Anyway, I'll be paying close attention to reviews at launch and the general buzz surrounding the game, but it's definitely on my radar. Let me know what you think though. If you got a chance to play it, were you impressed enough to pick it up when it launches later this month? And if not, what didn't you like about the game? Drop me your thoughts below, but for now I want to thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm out of here.
No one can hide from my sight.